Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman. I'm guilty as charged.
This is Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited about our next guest because, man, there's some killer musicians with a killer new song, and they are guilty as charged. So let's welcome to the show, Dark Remedy. How are you?
What's going on? Thank you for having us.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. You know, if you sucked, I probably wouldn't have you on, but you're pretty badass, so I do.
Hey, well, we make it good in the studio, you know.
I'm sure you're pretty good live too, because, like, listen, I mean, it is a difference, isn't it? Playing in the studio and playing live, and you know, tell us a little. Since you brought that up, tell us a little bit about how it feels as a musician to be live compared to in the studio, from you and your perspective.
Well, I mean, for me, there's a huge difference. Dark Remedy has yet to play live, actually, this band, but we all have played in other bands. Our drummer, Paul, was in Saliva. All of us come from other bands. And for me, writing the music is one thing, and, you know, it's getting that message out. But when you're live, it's seeing how that message connects with other people. And for me, that's what it's all about. You know, we're trying to say something here with our music, and hopefully it impacts somebody. So to get to see that firsthand, that's what it's all about for me.
Well, it's funny you should say that too, because that's the one thing I do love about you, that when I first saw it, I was like, yes, I would definitely do that interview, because you're talking about people just being themselves. And I talk about this all the time. Like, we need to get rid of all the labels and putting everybody in groups. I feel like we're all in grammar school trying to get picked for the kickball team. Okay. And it's like, just be yourself, just be real. Even, you know, when it comes to interviews or anything you do, it's like, just be yourself, and everything will be great. And I think that's so true for a musician too. It's like, instead of all the chatter that everybody gives you, I think if you're a creative musician, that chatter only confuses things sometimes, and you have a vision in your head of what your creativity is. And that's why I think makes a musician great, when they follow that.
100%. I mean, we're just normal guys telling normal stories that everybody deals with. And, you know, being yourself is the big message of this song. And I think that's one of the most important messages that we kind of need in 2024 is, don't worry about what people think. You know, anything that you do, somebody's going to tell you, you shouldn't do that. That's a bad idea. That's dumb. It'll never work. I mean, come on, I'm a musician, you know. How many times today I've been told, what are you doing? You crazy? Go be a lawyer, you know? I mean, it's not me. You know, you've got to be you. And I feel like once you're comfortable with you and being yourself and unapologetically you, that's when real growth happens.
No doubt. And, you know, even as a musician, like you're talking about, I'm thinking to myself, you got to be yourself to be a musician, more than probably any other career, because it's so transparent when you're not, to us, the people listening and watching you. You know, I can totally tell when a band's going through the motions, or if they just have complete passion for what they're doing. And they only have passion when they're doing what they think in their heart they should be doing.
100%. 100%. And we hope that our music does reflect that, because it all comes from somewhere with us. And, you know, you're right. You can hear it when it loses that vibe. It loses that originality, you know?
Yeah. Well, and look at it like, okay, so I come from the 80s Sunset Strip scene. And a lot of bands that were the hair metal bands, quote unquote, were not that before the record labels got a hold of them, you know? And I sat there backstage while friends of mine were in bands and the labels tell them, okay, you're going to dress this way. You're going to write the music this way. And look at what it did. Basically, metal almost disappeared forever because of that,
Absolutely.
you know? And I think the only reason it's back now is because of bands like you that are being true to their art.
Well, we really appreciate you saying that.
Well, it's so true. And I saw it firsthand, you know, and it's like, it's even funny. I was at that Grass Pop festival this weekend. We were talking about something because like Kerry King has his new project that performed at it. And we were talking about Slayer compared to some of the other bands from the 80s. And it's like, no matter what, like them or don't like them, they've always been true to being Slayer. And nobody else. And so I look at it that way as like, when you're true to that, that's when you stay the long term. Like how many bands have lasted for 40 years that did not stay true to themselves?
100%. Especially today's day and age of rock. It's harder today than it was even a decade ago, especially for new bands to break through. I feel like if you're not doing what you really feel in your heart, as hard as it is right now to make it, you're going to be miserable and you're not going to last, you know.
That's the exact word that was in my head as you were talking, because it is an industry that if you're not true to yourself, you're going to be miserable. The redeeming quality of the feature of the redeeming quality of the industry is to play music and play the music you want to play. And if you're, you know, anybody that's a musician is into music. So if you're not playing music you want to play, it's a pretty miserable existence, I would think.
Absolutely.
And then you're just the whole concept of the song is not just musicians, it's everybody. How many people nowadays in 2024 are so miserable because they're listening to everybody else? Like you said, there's always going to be somebody that says something negative, and there's going to be somebody that says something positive. You're not going to please everybody. And that's the thing that people in anything in life, they're looking to please everybody, and you're never going to please everybody. So you might as well just please yourself and your people will come.
100%. I mean, that's how we look at making music is we make music that we like. We write songs that mean something to us, and we can only hope that maybe it means something to somebody else, but that's not guaranteed.
Right.
And, you know, that's the most humbling thing in the world when, you know, we've had quite a few people hit us up, say, you know, hey, I really like the message of guilty as charged. Here's what it means to me. Like, that's what this is about. That's the gratification right there. Hopefully you can help somebody.
Yeah. And you touch on a great point, because what does it mean to them? And I think that's key to a great song is, yes, when you write the song, it's what it means to you as the person writing it. But a good song also has the ambiguity that the people listening can put their own meaning to it that they relate to.
Yeah, I can tell you that those of us that wrote the song, myself, Stephen Miller, and Jonathan Norris from Kingdom Collapse, it means something completely different to all three of us. And we all wrote it together.
I love that. It's so true, but most people don't get it, you know? So I love that you said it, because it is funny too, like how you can all have a different meaning to it, but still collaborate to make something great. And I think that's the big message too, because we live in such a society of people being put in boxes these days and divided. And that just proves that we can all work together and we don't have to be on the exact same page.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what collaboration is all about.
No doubt. So what else are we going to have coming after this now that we have Guilty as Charged? What else do we have in the works?
A lot. So we were actually in the studio till about 3 a.m. this morning. We've been in the studio for weeks now. We're working on some follow-up stuff. We'll be releasing an EP at some point. I'm hoping by the end of the year. And we have several more singles on the way, more music videos, and we're hoping to get out there on the road here very, very soon. We are itching to come out there and see everybody.
I bet you are, because I don't know if people really realize that musicians, that's their favorite time, is playing live.
100%. For Steven and myself, it's been especially difficult. Kind of how Dark Remedy started. Steven produced my other band, and we'd worked together for years. My other band had a tour lined up during COVID. That obviously didn't happen. The band, we kind of took a break there, and Steven and I said, hey, let's start working on this thing. So we released our first single in 2020, but neither of us have been on stage since 2019, right before COVID. So we're like fiending to get back out there.
I know that first show's going to be, oh my God, it's going to be insane because all that energy you have pent up from all these years.
Yeah. He and I are one and the same in that's where we both find our joy, is connecting with the audience. So we've got a ton of pent up energy and we're ready to share it with the world.
I love it. And I tend to try to take positive things out of things. And if you're going to take the positive out of COVID for musicians, I've said a lot that some of the best music's going to come out of COVID, not because of COVID, not because of writing about COVID, but because artists get to jump off that hamster wheel during that period of time and go back to being creative and even reevaluating things. So the way I look at it is, hey, if COVID didn't happen, you might be doing what you were doing before and maybe not on the path you should be on. That gave you ability to sit down and analyze, where do I really want to go? Because when you're on that hamster wheel, you don't have time to think about that. It's just gig to gig to gig to gig, right? And there's no time. So I think if there wasn't a COVID, there wouldn't be a Guilty as Charged.
No, you're 100% right. That's pretty much exactly what happened to us, and down to even the name Dark Remedy. It was dark times. This was our remedy.
Yeah, I love that. And again, something that everybody can put their own meaning to, because you think of a band name like that, and if you're the person thinking about it, you're putting your own story to it. So to me, that makes it a perfect band name, actually.
Well, thank you.
So tell everybody how they can connect with you guys on the web, socials. You do have a pretty badass website, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, darkremedyband.com, Facebook, Dark Remedy Band, basically everywhere. Dark Remedy Band, YouTube, TikTok. We're on all of it.
Is there anything else we haven't covered yet that the listeners need to know that we want to put out there right now?
Yes. We want to let every one of you that's listened to Guilty as Charged know that we love you from the bottom of our hearts, and thank you so much for supporting us.
Well, we love you for bringing us great music, and thanks for that, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.